But let's move into the next topic, and we are going to welcome in our patron, John. We are super excited to have him back. It's been a while, and he is one of our favorite people to talk to each and every month. And you can become a patron like John at patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. But John, you wanted to come on, I think it was last month. We had a bit of scheduling issues to preview the San Antonio Spurs. And I think even if we did that preview, I don't think we would have expected this. Right now, after 16 games, the Spurs are 5-11. They've currently lost 8 straight. Craig Popovich is calling it a witch hunt jokingly before the game, and then they go out and lose to the 76ers, 115-104 yesterday. It is a tough team right now. They're not playing defense. It doesn't look like the Spurs. What is wrong right now in your mind with the San Antonio Spurs?
The number one thing is direction. They need to decide whether they're going to try to make the playoffs to keep the pattern going there, or it's going to be a rebuild year. So they need to figure out what they're going to do and go for it. Right now, they're trying to do both at the same time. It's not really working out.
Yeah, and I think this was a team that we all thought were going to be playoff teams, and we all did. We look at the predictions that we made preseason. I had them as the 8th seed. Ricky had them at the 8th seed. Dave had them at the 7th seed. We all thought this team was going to be good. I don't think they're this bad. I don't think they're going to be, 14th in the Western Conference this year. But John is right. They really don't have a direction. You have LaMarcus Aldridge, you have DeMar DeRozan on this team, and then they have a lot of young guys, and then some just middling players in there as well. Dave, do you think this is a direction issue right now? Do you think it's something that they need to commit to? Let's go young or let's go old and veteran heavy. What is the problem in your mind right now with the Spurs?
I think the problem is, on paper, what the names are, what the recognition is, where they left off last year. We thought, look, they're going to be adding back DeJounte Murray to this team. They're going to be adding in young talent. We're going to get to see Lonnie Walker with a full offseason healthy and prep for the regular season plus draft picks. Like, everything on paper was like this team should come back stronger than they were last year. And last year they made it in. So, logically, no duh, this team should be in the playoffs. But out of the gates, I think I agree with the fact that it comes down to direction, because I look on the floor and their play style. And yes, as much as you want to harp on Pop for, his old school style of we're going to work the mid-range, we're going to work the low post with the 2 stars that he does have. I feel like he's using the 2 best players on his team to try to emphasize, hey, this is what they're good at. Let's play through them. The problem is that because they have such a loaded backcourt, they're so backlogged, and they don't have a lot of wing depth, it kind of hurts in the modern NBA. So a lot of the matchups they're going up against, they're getting abused in those kind of matchups when you have to force DeRozan to play the 3, and he's not able to keep up size-wise with some of these guys, and they can put some body into him, put some shoulder into him. He struggles a little bit, and DeRozan, he's not an amazing defender to begin with, but it shows where the NBA is going, and perhaps where Greg Popovich and this team's plan has starting to become outdated.
Mm-hmm. Because offensively, they have been playing well. Right now, they're 5th in offensive rating as a team. DeRozan has 22 points a game. Aldridge at 18 points a game. Brent Forbes, 14 points per game. Our boy Rudy Gay, about 12 points per game. But it obviously hasn't accumulated to wins. Ricky, are you kind of in the same line as John and Dave here on what's wrong with the Spurs?
Well, to go off of what John said, I think this needs to be the tank year for the Spurs. I would make that decision right now. And I'm going to go nuclear here. I'm going to make a bold prediction that this is Popovich's last year coaching the Spurs. He gets fired, but I wouldn't be surprised if, let's say they have a really bad nuclear season, they're a top 10 draft pick. If Popovich goes, you know what, everything going on in my personal life, I'm just going to step away. You know what, this is it. I'm not in this for another rebuild. If this team was making the playoffs, maybe that would be different. And I kind of want to relate this team to what the Grizzlies did, but a little bit differently. We're not on the coaching side, because that was they fired Fizdale and moved on, but player-wise. They moved on from Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, who were 34 was Gasol, 31 was Mike Conley. Spurs are in a similar situation. You got LaMarcus Aldridge, 34 years old. DeMar DeRozan, who's 30 years old. So it's like, you look at it, in my mind, do the Spurs pull that trigger, which I would, and just do what the Grizzlies did? You know what? We're probably not going to make the playoffs this year because the West is a much deeper conference than it was last year. Why not try to trade those guys away, get assets, go full rebuild right now this season?
John, I think when we were talking a little bit before, I don't think you're saying they should rebuild, and I don't think you're calling for Popovich, or you think Popovich will step away. You don't think they should be rebuilding though, right? What you think they should be, just moving personnel around and using the right personnel to help this team?
Both. I think they need to develop the young players. I think that Derek White needs to be starting. Well, I start off, they need to have this as a developmental year. Whether you call it developmental rebound, it's not that important to me. But Derek White has a talent. I like to see him get minutes and develop. Brent Forms is starting right now, which is blocking a lot of time that Derek White could be on the floor. Like you mentioned earlier, as far as like the talent-wise and height-wise and position-wise, they need a bigger, smaller forward. They have DeMar Carroll, but he's up there. I think he's like 33 years old. But they need somebody who can shoot three-pointers at the 3 position and have DeMar DeRozan play more at the 2, which he's more comfortable at. Whether it's I don't think they should tank, but they have a history of tanking because that's how they got Tim Duncan. But I don't think you should do that. I think they can try to win some games and develop younger players at the same time.
Yeah, right now DeMar Carroll's taking less than a shot a game, so even if he's hitting at 35%, he's not making a huge impact, and your right, he is 33 years old. I agree with him on DeRozan, too. DeRozan is a 2, but even then, he's a guy on a 1-year deal that is likely not going to be there next year, or at least I would make that move. And there is talks, too, that maybe they would think about moving away from LaMarcus Aldridge, so this could be a year that they just, give up on, and I don't know if Pop is willing to be a part of that or not. I don't know where he is at when it comes to sticking around. So if he did retire, I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't know if he's going to retire mainly because of a rebuilding year. But they do have interesting pieces on this team. Some of them have been brought up. Derek White is one of them. DeJounte Murray coming off an injury is one of them. Lonnie Walker is one of them as well. They had a couple draft picks this year as well that were interesting to me. But Dave, with all of this being said, wing depth and a great wing is something that is lacking on this. Do you think this is something that they could possibly then go out and find on the market? And do you think this could be a fixable situation? Because it seems right now that Ricky and John are in the land of, all right, this is probably not the team that's going to be able to make the Western Conference playoffs, but we're only 16 games into the season. So do you think if they were able to go out and find someone that could play the 3, that could play it extremely well, be a good 3-and-D player for them, or be a guy that could fit into the offense, not be a guy that shoots a ton of threes, but have a really good mid-range game and play defense, do you think that this could be a team that could possibly turn around with DeRozan playing the 2 and with Aldridge out there? Do you think that if they found that guy that they could turn this skid around?
I think it's hard
That's
to
find.
find.
That's a good question for Dave. Ooh. Dave, the wang expert.
You know me, John. You know me.
There you go.
I mean, it would be a big step forward. The problem is there's not a lot of those guys out there who are on the market, and I think that's the biggest thing. Is the value for a wing has never been higher right now, especially one who's kind of in that 3-and-D mold. So when you look at this team, and yes, you're likely, if you're going to have to get someone from another team like that, you're going to have to give away some of those young talented players, maybe potential. And you mentioned like Lonnie Walker out there. You've got a couple of guards between DeJounte, Derek White, who I think a lot of us were counting on. Oh, this is their backcourt of the future. This is where they're going to go. So if you want to go in for it this year, and on the opposite route from Ricky, and say like Pop's here to compete, like we're not going to tank during the end of Pop's career. Let's go and keep winning. So you're going to have to, heap out that young talent. Maybe, I know Keldon Johnson was a later pick, but still a good young name. Pair him with someone else on that team to go out and get a wing. I don't know, though. I don't know that's going to instantly fix this team's problems. I think the only upside right now is the fact that if you look back at last year, they also struggled, in their first, I want to say, like 25 games. They also had similar numbers, and again, it was their defense. So maybe it's just Pop slow to get the team going. And again, remember, DeJounte Murray's on a minutes restriction still, coming off of his injury, so he's not playing full games. But I think the biggest problem is I want to put them into the mold of the modern NBA, and they're just not. So like adding a 3-and-D wing makes sense for 29 other, well, not 29, but like every other team in the NBA. Like, does that fix this team? Is that this team's key to success, or is this team held to a different standard because you're trying to force the ball through DeMar DeRozan?
Yeah, through 16 games last year, they were 8-8, and then through 25 games last year, they were 11-4. Never had this long of a losing streak either. Longest losing streak was 3 games, but they weren't killing it off the gate.
Right.
They still were under 500 25 games through, but this is a 5-11 team right now.
And I think the most concerning thing through this losing streak is some of the teams you sprinkle in there. Memphis. That's a team in San Antonio you should be able to beat. Orlando, not playing their best basketball. San Antonio should be able to beat that team. And then I look at Washington, those are just 3. Maybe you throw in Portland because Portland hasn't been the Portland that we thought they would be. But that to me looks at this 4 and it's like Memphis, Washington, and Orlando. Those are okay, we should have won those games and it shouldn't even got to 8 games in a row that we lost.
Yeah, and this is a team that I don't know if rebuilding is the right thing for them. If they could go out and get a wing, I think they will probably definitely look to add a wing to help out their team. Rudy Gay, as much as we love him on this podcast, he's not a modern NBA guy anymore. He can't play defense up to a level that this team needs. And along with that, DeMar DeRozan isn't big enough to be playing the wing, and also obviously he's never been a great defender. So that needs to be something that needs to be addressed. And you also look at their draft as well. They need to develop some of these young players, but it's also tough too when all 3 of their players that they drafted are in the G League right now, and you have guys like Rudy Gay, Patty Mills taking away spots that these guys could possibly be, taking up on the actual NBA roster. And another concerning thing for me a little bit too is the fact that you look at where they picked Lucas Samanic, right? Am I saying that right?
Close enough.
It's been
Samanic.
Yeah, it's been 5 months, so I haven't said that name in a long time. But he was taken 2 picks before Brandon Clark, and I think Brandon Clark would be a great addition to this team. He could be possibly being your great wing defender right now, and obviously he's a great rim runner, so he just adds a lot of different aspects to your offense. And then you could also had another great wing defender, Matisse Thybulle. Are you telling me that Pop couldn't have locked Matisse Thybulle in this defense? Are you saying that if you added Matisse Thybulle to this defense that they wouldn't be 5 points better on their defensive rating? This is one of the best NBA defenders right now, and he's a rookie.
There's a reason we mocked it over and over and over. It was like, well, what'd you do with Kawhi Leonard? Can he do it again?
Kind of, but Kawhi Leonard was a much better offensive player in college.
But it was let's take someone who's known for his defense and try to teach him to shoot and see what results we get.
Or it's why Nasir Little was drafted to mocked to them as well. And Nasir Little went just a couple spots behind Lucas Samanic. He was at 19, and Nasir Little was at 25, and that was 4 spots before Keldon Johnson at 29. They could have traded up. So all 3 of their draft picks, Luka, Keldon, and Quindary Weatherspoon, all in the G League right now. So, John, looking back a little bit at the draft, because I know you had your own mock draft, you had your own big board and all that stuff. Do you think they made a mistake possibly not going out and getting one of these guys that were available, like a Thybulle, like a Clark, like a Grant Williams possibly, Nasir Little?
No, I think that Samanic, actually, I think I mocked Samanic to the Spurs. It was one of my only correct picks in the later of the first round.
Nice.
But I think that what they need at the 3 is somebody who can spread the floor and shoot the 3. It'd be great if they were a 2-way player, but somebody like Clark, DeRozan, and Aldridge, it clogged up the middle too much. They need somebody who can shoot 3s. A couple of things. One thing, Benelli. Is it Benelli?
Yeah, Marco
Bellinelli. Yeah.
Yeah, he fell off this year. He was their hope to stretch the floor and be a 3-point threat. He's shooting under 30%. That's one reason why the Spurs aren't doing well. And he's also, there's rumors of DeRozan being traded. Now, I think Orlando is reportedly showing some interest. Now, Orlando's offering up Aaron Gordon. I don't know if he can fit with the Spurs. But I've got a quick question. Ricky, what do you think about DeRozan to Orlando?
I mean, if I'm Orlando, I take that deal.
Gordon to the Celtics and Jaylen Brown to the Spurs.
Ooh, see, I don't think that happens only because I don't think the Celtics move Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I don't think they'd move him, especially with a 4-year, 115 extension. It seems like they want to keep him there. DeRozan's only 1 year, so I don't think that value matches up. And then Gordon, too, he's kind of the worst one talent-wise out of all of that.
But I mean, looking at what the other two teams, like the Magic, if the Magic are trying to get a trade partner or try to partner up with the Spurs to make a trade, if I'm the Spurs, I go into it because the one thing that the Magic do have that could probably help the Spurs out is, first off, draft capital. You can get another good pick because Orlando's not going to be a good team this year or hasn't been a good team this year. Also, they've got some young guys that you could probably bring over and match up in your system. Like, let's say, I'm not saying he's on the table, but I mean, Aaron Gordon's a big name, but let's say like somebody like a Jonathan Isaac, and I'm not saying he's going to be in the deal, but somebody like that, like what we were saying with Thibault of like, hey,
Ricky.
he's a defensive player, and we can put it in the deal. I'm not saying he's going to be in the deal.
No, I know, but you're saying players like Jonathan Isaac.
Yes.
There's a Jonathan Isaac. There's no 6'11" freaks like that.
No, I mean like
Well, I mean, you got
defensive-
Pascal.
Hold on, let's all talk at the same time. John, what were you saying?
There are 5 unicorns in the league, and Jonathan Isaac is one of them. They're not getting traded.
I don't know. I mean, maybe a little bit more, but yeah, I agree with you. By the way, I just want to call back to the record piece. I was talking about like rodeo trip wise, like because they're out of town, because of that stretch of games out of town, basically from early November through the start of December. Like they struggled there just as badly. It's just a lot of road games.
Okay.
But no, yeah, Jonathan Isaac thinks silly. Sorry.
No,
Ricky,
Aaron Gordon
the
would be great,
defensive.
but I don't think he's moving.
It's the defensive player part. Like that's why I brought in the Thibault of like why we mocked him there. If they have like a young player that the Spurs are like, oh, we can mold him. I just used Jonathan Isaac as the example, although I do not think he would be in the deal.
So I guess my question then goes to like, do you think it's trade for this year to try to succeed, or do you think that their drafting seems to be aiming at long-term development for guys, so it seems like they're in no rush to, force a run at the end of Pop's career. I wonder, is this a team where, even as bad as I wanted not this, like, if they did tank and got one of these top talents from this class, like, would that benefit them much better long-term to land like a Wiseman or someone like that and roll with that lineup in the future and just be like, hey, DeRozan got us through a couple of years, and thanks for your services.
See, I don't know. I feel like if DeRozan's not in the plans, I would want to get something for him.
Who
I would want, even if it's draft picks, even if it's just draft picks, I would rather get that than just letting them walk at the end of the year.
I don't think the Spurs need draft picks. They have a deep team as far as talent, but they're not deep as far as experience. So I think if they were to get a piece, they need somebody as a veteran or somebody can do something specific which meets a need, which is deep 3 shooting.
But if you get that draft capital, then you can use that to maybe get that veteran that you want and not necessarily have to use your own pick that might be very high this year.
Yeah, but that's in June. They're trying to, I think we should be talking about what they should do this year in the season, especially before the trade deadline.
Yeah, so do you see if these struggles continue, John? Do you see them moving away from either LaMarcus or DeRozan?
Even if they make the playoffs, DeRozan has value and he's not guaranteed. So they should listen to trade offers for DeRozan for a long-term future, especially if there's a player out there that meets their need. Because you need a lot of like ask Dave, you need wing depth and you need elite wing defenders in the West to be competitive.
Yeah, I think the thing too with DeRozan is he's going to be a free agent, and the free agent class isn't.
He's got a player op.
Does he really?
Yeah,
I thought he did.
He's got a $27 million year spot rack. Calling a $27 million player op.
That's a yikes.
That's my concern. I'm like, well, even if you say he walks at the end of the year, he's a 30-year-old shooting guard right now. Do you think he doesn't take $27 million, or do you think he can get a 4-year deal like the last one of his prime?
I think he takes the 27. I think the market is changing. There's more talent. So there are going to be less players who are getting max deals.
Well, my thing that I was going to bring up is if you look at the guys that don't have player ops, this is the free agent class: Paul Millsap, Hassan Whiteside, Chandler Parsons, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Danilo Gallinari, Jeff Teague, Derek Favors, Alan Crabb, Bismack Biyombo, Tim Hardaway Jr., Kent Bazemore, Evan Turner, Goran Dragic, Tristan Thompson, Reggie Jackson, Andre Iguodala, Jan Mahimi. Like, those are the Marcus Morris. Those are the guys that are, like, up there that aren't have player options and aren't RFAs.
Yeah.
If you put DeRozan there, he's automatically the best player in that class.
Yep.
So if a team does want to give a max to somebody, I think that could be a reason why he could go out, is get a 4-year max, increase that $27 million to the most possible out there, because if teams have money, they might look to add DeRozan, and he's automatically going to become one of your better offensive players just because he can put up 25 a night. So I think it is possible that he declines it if he looks like he's going to be the best player in this free agent class. Because even then, the guys that do have options, Gordon Hayward, Otto Porter Jr., Drummond, AD does, but I don't know if AD's going to... he's probably going to decline it, but then just get an extension with... Yeah, he's just going to get an extension with the Lakers.
Well, could he come to Chicago?
And then Batum. So I don't think that him declining the option is out of the scenario. I just do wonder, though, if they look for a player that is on a 1-year deal that could then just... they flip for DeRozan, then re-sign, because I don't know if DeRozan fits their long-term. So maybe they do just look to get something for him and then also are able to keep that player long-term. I think that could be a way that they look. A team that's probably not going to keep that player that they're going to trade for, they flip DeRozan. DeRozan can help that team, and then that person could stay long-term with the Spurs. I think that's where they might go.
Interesting.
But it's something that is obviously going to have to be played out a little bit. Do we think that this team can be a 500 team this year, though, if we look at all of it together? So, John, if you had to bet over under 42 wins for the Spurs this year, where would you go?
Oh, man, I would say over. I think that some of the struggles the Spurs have were just temporary. If they stay healthy, I think they can win 42 games, but no more than 45.
Okay, but you think they should like one reason that they could start winning more games is if they go younger, bringing in like Derek White Jr. and all those players?
No, I think it's about even. I think that this year, 2019-20, I think I'm calling Derek White and Bryn Forbes even.
Okay.
I think in the future, Derek White. But the other thing is there's some overlap. Derek White is a talent as well. I think that he could be a trade piece. You want to, what the Spurs needs is a natural, two guard who can shoot 3-pointers. I mean, look at, Denver has a lot of talent. The guy Beasley playing the 2, he's not getting any minutes.
It's true.
If Denver says, well, we want to free up Murray and have him be like a 2019 Booker from the Suns, rather than a 2018 Booker from the Suns. We need a playmaker at the point. So Derek White could be an option, and then Beasley can go on to the San Antonio Spurs.
That'd be an interesting
kind
move.
of free up that offense.
Yeah.
I think Derek White is more talented than Beasley, but Denver will have to throw in some other pieces.
Yeah, and Derek White, too, we saw him last year in the playoffs. He was able to make a huge impact for them, and he is a very good, he's a pretty decent passer, so I would wonder, too, if they could play him and DeJounte Murray next to each other and figure that situation out, because I do think White has shown himself to be a better 1 than a 2, and I think Murray is just pretty, flexible at both guard positions. Dave, over under 42.
But Derek White's a half-decent spot-up shooter. So.
He is. Dave, over under 42 wins for the Spurs.
I want to go push. I think they're going to land on the dot on 42. Okay. It just feels like this team, they're going to get it together defensively at some point. Like I don't know, they're never going to be able to be like a top-tier defensive team because of the lack of size and versatility. But they do have great individual performers, and I think that's going to outweigh some things once they get that chemistry going throughout the season. But right now, they look a little disorganized on defense. I think it's just going to take a little bit more time to sync things up. And once DeJounte Murray starts getting, 30 minutes a night, things will also help shore up that 1 guard spot.
Ricky, over under 42 wins.
I'm going to go under, not by much. They will be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft. They'll be like 35 to 37 wins and be a top 10 team.
How good do you think the NBA is going to be?
What?
How good do you think the NBA is going to be?
Last year, what was the number 10 team?
It was 36 for the T-Wolves.
So there you go.
Right.
So that's on basing it off of.
I expect the number to be lower. My bad on that. Every team's just been tanking, so I thought 36 was too much.
The Wizards had 32 last year.
Did they really? Mm-hmm. The fuck? You did have 5 teams underneath 30 wins, but yeah, they did have 32 wins. All right, I will say.
According to Ricky, they had the steal of the draft.
They did, Rui.
Yeah,
He's playing really good. Anyway,
we'll talk about them. We already did talk about them.
Yeah.
And then finally, I would say that they're going to be. I'll go under 2. I think they'll probably be in the Kings spot last year, where they'll be the 9th seed-ish and win 39 games or so, and just miss the playoffs. But I just don't think this team has enough wing talent, and this is exactly what the NBA's been, for the past couple of years, is you need elite wing talent if you are going to dominate the NBA. And if you're going to be this good and go up against Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and if you're going to go up against LeBron James, and if you're going to go up against Luka Doncic, you need guys to be able to stop elite wings, and I don't think they have that right now, and I think it's going to kill them in a lot of matchups. And even when they don't, right now they're being taken advantage of because their guards aren't healthy, or they're possibly not playing the right ones, like we've talked about this through this segment. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think this team's going to be over or under 42 wins this season? What do you think is wrong with the Spurs? Do you think it's something that we completely missed out on? Let us know down in the comments below.